What's up everybody, Conjure here, and I'm going to show you how you can instantly start up in your photo game, taking images that look a little bit like this and turning them into something that looks like this in only a few simple steps using Adobe Lightroom. So stay tuned and let's get into it. So when it comes to post-processing your image, it can either kind of be the make it or break it point. Post-processing is the difference between kind of posting a snapshot and posting something that's really kind of interesting and catches the eye and you just want to, you know, scroll down and click on it. Now, as you see this a lot on Instagram, right? Almost every picture I see on Instagram is edited because I don't ever scroll down and, you know, follow the people that just post the boring selfies or the boring snapshots, because if you really want to get great photos, post-processing has to be done, right? There's just no way you can take a snapshot and it's always good. Sometimes that is the case, but it's not always the case. So I'm going to show you guys how you can take a great photo and just turn it into something greater. So if you guys are shooting on a DSLR, I really recommend that you take your photos in the RAW format other than JPEG, because RAW is a bigger file size. It includes a lot more information, so you can really push some of the elements in your photo when editing them, like the shadows and stuff like that, without getting a lot of noise in the image, and the quality won't degrade as much. Now JPEG is still very possible, but it doesn't include as much information in the photo, so it's sometimes a little hard to get, you know, the greatest edit on a JPEG, but it still can be done. I'm going to show you guys how we can do it today in this video. So if you want a little bit more information on RAW and JPEG, there is a link down below in the description. You can go check that out because these guys explain it a lot better than I do. So you can go check that out, watch that. It's a very informative video on, you know, the key differences between RAW and JPEG and which one you should shoot at. So yeah, let's get into the computer. I'm going to get onto Lightroom and I'm going to show you guys how we can do it. So here we are inside of Lightroom, and we got this image here. It's a very nice image actually. I really do like some of the colors here. We got some really nice blues. You know, we got the greens, the kind of oranges, and I'm going to show you guys how we can take this image and turn it into something a lot better than it is. You can see it is nice as it is, but we can do a lot to it to make, you know, the colors pop a bit more, add a bit more contrast, and kind of make this image a bit more appealing. So let's get to editing the image. So the first thing I usually do with a photo is I push the shadows up. Now, the reason I do this is because if you shoot, this is easier to do if you're shooting in RAW. If you're shooting in JPEG, it's a little bit more difficult. So, but it will apply. You just can't push this as much as I'm going to be able to push it in the RAW file. So the reason I do this, okay, so if we look here, we can actually bring out a lot more detail. You see, if you look at this bit of rock here, if I can kind of zoom in a little more. There we go. So if you look at this section of the rock and places like this, if we start bringing the shadows up, you can see how that kind of brings the detail back. Now, if you do push it too much, you'll get a lot of noise. So you could push it until you feel, you know, until you're comfortable. So push it up a little bit. So I kind of like 100's, like that's overkill. So I'm kind of going to stick with something in the ranges of like 40. The next thing I do to compensate for bringing the shadows up is that I bring the blacks down. Okay, so let's do that. You can see that basically adds the shadows back again, but we've already took the detail and brought it back. So let's go here. So if I show the original, you can see here we got a little bit, tiny bit more detail, and it's kind of a bit more contrast, so it defines these trees a little bit more. So I'm going to bring the blacks down a little bit more. That's what I usually do, until I get something that I'm happy with. So if you bring it down too much, you end up with this weird effect where it's like going into the negative. So you don't want to do it too much, just a little bit. So default, pull it down. Yeah, that looks good for me. -50. So here's the original. Here's what we've just done. So already you can see there's a lot more contrast. Things are standing out a bit more. All the trees like to stand out. We've got all this, you know, ocean down here. It's got a little bit bluer. And these waterfalls pop a little bit more as well, which is nice. So that's one of the things I do. The next thing I'm going to do here is just up the exposure just a tiny bit, about quarter of a stop. So 0.25. And I'm going to bring the blacks. Well, in fact, we'll keep the blacks there. Just bring the shadows down a little bit. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to add some contrast into the image. So usually if I'm editing a photo, I always mess around with these first. I don't ever just go straight into the tone curves and stuff like that. I get these settings correct, and then you can kind of use them to base a lot of these off. So Let's see here. Contrast, I want to add a little bit just to make the trees pop. Not too much again, because if you overdo it, that looks ridiculous. So we're just going to drag it up. Maybe plus 18. Okay, so I like that now. You can see original. Oh, let's not zoom in. God, I'm tired. Okay, so original. And then just with the contrast and blacks and stuff applied. So it's a lot better. You see it pops a little bit more. We're getting a little bit more definition in these waterfalls back here, especially in the trees as well. You can see the shadows pop a little bit more, so it doesn't just look like it's all merged. It actually has like a bit more depth, so it looks good. The next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is look at this water down here. Kind of want it to be a little bit like bluer. I know you don't want to push it too much because it just doesn't look realistic, but I kind of want to push it a little bit. So, in fact, let me concentrate on the trees first. So I'm going to go to the Luminance tab, and if you use this here, you can actually pick a section or a certain color that it will affect. So I kind of want to, you can see here we got the oranges, they're quite bright. I kind of want to push these a little more. So if you go to the green, you can see it's boosted. See how much more brighter some of these edges get on the trees? That's cool. So we're going to zoom out real quick. In fact, I want to pick that. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so you see, like, if you scroll, it's affecting the colors that we selected. So I'm going to go back, zoom out again. If you want to keep this into the frames, click fit up here and it'll fit in. But I sometimes go 1-to-1. I'm going to go again, luminance. I'm going to click on the greens that I've liked. I'm going to bring up the green. So go back again, fit. You can see here just how like it's making the trees pop. Now I do it too much, it looks ridiculous. Again, if you push anything too much, it just looks stupid. So push that up a little. I kind of want to make this color over here pop a little bit more. So I'm going to go back in 1-to-1. Use the space bar to get your hand key. Let's go over here and grab that. Let's push the oranges, reds a tiny bit, and the yellows just a touch. Let's get back into fit. So original, new image. You can see just how much more it's starting to pop. It's really starting to come out now. Bring it to life. It just kind of looks boring here, right? It's grey. Everything merges together, and then we go back to the edited, and it looks a lot better. So if you want to know how to do that, you just press the / key on the keyboard. That can take you to the original image, and then you press it again, and it'll take you back to, you know, the edited one. If you want to see them side by side, press Y, and here's the original, and here's that. Press Y again to get rid of it. You can press F to go full screen, of course. You can cycle through that, or you can press L to just kind of view it like it is with different background shades, so you can stand out black like that. Another tip here is to change your background color to white, because that's what, you know, most social media images, you know, most backgrounds and websites are white, so you can kind of see how it looks. Okay, so I like that. I'm going to go to saturation now. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of the blue, push the aqua up. You see if we really boost it, that looks silly. So you got to be careful again, just a little bit at a time. Okay, you don't want to push it too much. And the blue. Okay, that looks good. I think that looks good. Okay, so we're going to go to the tone curves now. In fact, I'm going to add a little bit of clarity to the image, just a small touch. Now, if you overdo it, it's crazy, right? So, again, I'm going to go into fill. Boost it just a touch, maybe +5. Yeah, that's good. Fit. So let's view them next to each other, pressing Y. So there's our original. Here's our edited. I'm going to go here into the tone curve using the RGB. If you add one, add some points just by clicking. Now we've already added contrast, right? So a lot of people tend to just pull this down, push this up, and it looks ridiculous. So we've already added enough contrast that we don't need to do that. But what I do like to do sometimes is just bring this one up and it'll kind of add it. So don't go crazy with it, but just bring it up a little bit, and it'll kind of fade those blacks from being pure black. So bring it up a little. I'm going to go ahead and bring that down just a smidge, and then boost the highlights just a touch. And now by changing the channel, we can go into here and change that to blue. And I want to add a tiny bit of blue in the shadows. So, but if you pull it down, that will take the blue out. If you push it up, it will add the blue in. So I'm going to bring this down. I'll have a point here just because I don't want it to affect such a wide range. Take a little bit out of the highlights. Just make that water look a bit more aqua. Let's go into the red. Push a little bit in the highlights and a tiny bit here in the shadows. So let me just check that real quick. So there's our original, there's our edited, original, edited. So you see it's standing out a lot more. And now it's sharpening, another thing I like to do. So if you hold down Alt while using the mask here, you can see what it's going to affect. So by dragging it right, it will affect, that's all of the image, and this is only the like certain edges. So I'm going to go ahead and fit to my screen, and then drag to see what I want it to affect. Something like that. And the radius is how much it's going to affect. So if you see here, we don't want too high of a radius. Detail. Now you can view all these by pressing Alt, and then the amount. So we can either push it up or bring it down. I'm just going to push it up a tad. That's good. And then we're going to do some vignetting just to draw the eyes into the center of the image. So by going left, you can add a dark vignette, or by going right, you can brighten up. I always kind of add a tiny bit. You don't want to go too much, but just to kind of. So if you push it like that, that looks silly, but you just gotta. It's all about the subtle adjustments to make it look good. So -6 is good. I like that. Now this path here, I can see these kind of individual wood panels, but I want to bring them out a bit more. So I'm going to press K, which will bring up my brush tool. Make sure we're on new brush here, and I'm going to just size it down using the bracket, the bracket keys. I think that's what they're called. So something like that, and then I'm just going to simply click and paint along the path. The people are fine, we'll bring them out as well. And if you hover over this here, you can actually see the mask that you just created. So now if you watch it, if you look, we can adjust the exposure on that individual part of the image or make it darker. I'm actually going to boost the clarity a little bit. Sharpness a tiny bit more. I'm going to go ahead and bring some of the shadows down. Contrast, a little bit more contrast, tiny bit less exposure just to kind of give it that dirty look. So I'm going to go 1:1, spacebar zoom in. So if you see down here, we've got a little bit of a problem going on. We've pushed it a bit too much. Bring exposure up. Again, just play with the values. It's too much contrast and it goes all weird. Bring it up a little bit. Okay. So I like that so far. So let's view them together. Original. Boosted. Yeah, it's looking a lot better now. A lot more color, a lot more depth. Just looks good. Okay, so zoom back in. Okay, let's do a bit of split toning. So, shadows, pick like a nice blue. You can change the intensity of it here. Highlights, of course, what's, you know, the perfect colour to go with blue is orange, or orange and teal. Complementary colours. So, kind of like a, so it's like a golden orange. I want like something that's like, yeah. So I'm going to bring this here down. Not too much though, it's going to affect the water. And I can change our balance to see how much of it's getting affected. So off, on, off, on. You can see it just makes the water pop a little bit more. Adds a nice amount of orange to the trees. So also doing it to the water over here, which is not what I want to do. It's not too much of a problem. Okay, I'm going to call that done. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. If you found anything in this tutorial helpful or used it in any of your images, please let me know down in the comments. As well, all my social media is in the description. You can go ahead and tag me or tweet at me any images that you edited using any of these techniques. So yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you want more tutorials, hit that subscribe button down below. New videos 3 times a week, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.